Illinois' unemployment rate has historically lagged the rest of the nation, and it continues to be up compared to last year. But Governor J.B. Pritzker, he says the state's economy is growing. Good morning, Illinois in Focus Daily, here with America's Talking Network and thecentersquare.com. Appreciate you being here, and we're going to talk about the state's employment picture, a recent audit from the Auditor General about the Illinois Department of Employment Security, and more. So where are we at on this? Of course, if you look at the unemployment rates by state from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's a federal agency, it shows, the states with the lowest unemployment rate, South Dakota, at 2% unemployment. But you go down further, where's Illinois at? It's now 3% for Wyoming, and then you keep scrolling down, 4% for Colorado. Our neighbor, Missouri, has a 3.9% unemployment rate. Looking at some of the other states, Indiana has a 4.2% unemployment rate. Ohio, 4.5%. Kentucky, 4.8%. Going down, there's Illinois. Right there, tied with California at 5.3%. Behind Nevada at 5.5%, and the District of Columbia, 5.7%. So that's where the national unemployment state by state ranks. So Illinois is, ranked 48th, tied with California, just behind Nevada and District of Columbia. And the unemployment continues to increase. Last week, the Illinois Department of Employment Security released this news update, essentially saying that jobs are up, unemployment down in the majority of metro areas in August. But if you look at the breakdown here, you can see these metropolitan areas. And while the majority over the year have changed, trending down, the overall unemployment rate from last year has actually gone up from 5.1% in August of 2023 to 5.5% in 2024. Governor J.B. Pritzker last week at an unrelated event was asked about the state's unemployment picture, especially as it continues to lag the rest of the nation. I believe is a point above the national average. And again, if you look at all the neighboring states, you have a lower unemployment rates. And here's what the governor had to say in response to that question about why is Illinois having a worse unemployment rate than the national average, and what can be done to reverse that.
Actually, if you look at the unemployment the numbers that came out today, what it shows is that unemployment is going down in a majority of the metro areas across the state of Illinois. That's great. Jobs are going up. Unemployment is coming down. That's great for the state. We're going to continue to do everything we can to attract businesses and jobs and make sure that they're good paying jobs too.
So he says, that they're going to attract jobs, make sure they're good paying jobs, and downplays the fact that Illinois' unemployment rate is a point above the national average, pointing to this report from the Illinois Department of Employment Security about the state's unemployment rate in the metro areas. For instance, let's take a look at Chicago, Naperville, Arlington Heights. It's gone up 0.7% from 5% in August 2023 to 5.7% in August 2024. Some of the other areas, Kankakee, unemployment's gone down. Rockford, unemployment's gone down by a full point from 7% in August 2023 to 6% in August 2024. That's tied with Kankakee as the highest unemployment in the state. Actually, I should say, Danville is. Looks like Danville's at 6.9%, which is actually up a tenth of a percent from the year before. Springfield area has gone down. The St. Louis section has gone down. But again, statewide, the number is up from last year at 5.5%. But what are some of the factors behind all of this? If you are regularly going to thecentersquare.com and checking out the Illinois headlines, you'll see a variety of headlines as our team with the Center Square continues to track economic concerns. And in particular, this story, Chicago leads state in mass layoffs, and a policy researcher says that it's because of violent crime. So let's break this down. Amid new reports that Chicago led the state in mass layoffs, a policy researcher says state leaders could do a lot to keep and make Illinois more attractive for businesses and workers. Illinois companies announced 1,183 mass layoffs in August, according to the Illinois Policy Institute. Those numbers can also be found at the state's WARN website. It's a federally required program that reports out worker adjustments and retraining notifications. And they have to report a certain number of layoffs. But regardless, of the 1,100 layoffs, 443 hit Chicago. So you have Ravi Mishra with the Illinois Policy Institute saying even though the homicide rate is down, the violent crime rates are still very high. And that causes fear in a lot of prospective employees who want to move to the state or that city specifically. That adds more reasons for businesses to not want to come here or leave the state. And goes on to talk about Illinois' unemployment rate for August, tied with the second worst in the nation, 5.3%. And typically, Mishra says these things tend to affect lower paid employees. It just comes down to the fact that higher paid employees have more economic mobility. Lower paid employees are less likely to leave the state if a company is switching over to a different state. So obviously, a lot to be said about Illinois' employment picture. But some state legislators, like Craig Wilcox, a Republican state senator, pointing out that these things can change with the right policies. Another story here that you can get at thecentersquare.com, talking about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Illinois' unemployment rate at 5.3% for August, tied for second highest in the country. Wilcox told the Center Square, we need to address policies that create jobs, that encourage businesses, and that understand there's economic impact on every policy out there. You've got Wilcox going on to say right now the policies that are being pushed in Springfield are the policies that have been pushed in D.C. for the last 4 years. They're not friendly to business. We need an administration in the General Assembly that's legitimately business-minded. And he goes on to say that the newspaper only talks about the largest businesses that announce layoffs of the Amazon Fulfillment Center when they don't talk about the 20 or 100 small businesses that reduce staff, small businesses, and the workforce of America. And when they start hurting people because of policy impacts to their pocketbooks, it means people are out of work. So, again, a lot of concern about the economic picture. But something else about the Illinois Department of Employment Security released last week deals with the audit of the agency. And these are regular reports that come out from the Illinois Auditor General, and we're going to look at a digest here. But before the report really made its splash, Governor Pritzker was asked about the report. And this was last week, I think Thursday. The governor was asked about this as the report came out from the Auditor General for the 2 years ending June 30th, 2023. And we'll touch on what the report says. But Governor Pritzker last week said he hadn't seen the report quite yet, but wanted to preempt any stories with some comments about what he thought the report may include.
So the question about the IDES report that came out today about employment security in the state. I haven't seen the report, so I can't comment about that report. What I can tell you is that if it's covering the years of the pandemic, then they should take into account the fact that all across the country, because there was such a huge influx of applications for unemployment, and I'm talking about 10 times the normal number, everybody's employment security departments across the country were having trouble keeping up with, but we wanted to make sure, all of us, to get checks out the door to people as the economy was failing because of COVID-19. We wanted to make sure people could stay afloat, buy groceries, survive through the terrible parts of the pandemic, and I think we did a pretty good job of that.
So again, the governor reflecting on the poor audits from 2020 in the COVID era, and if you recall, I mean, there was billions of dollars in fraud that was reported just from Illinois. And you had even members of Congress getting the little debit cards with unemployment money on it. And they're like, why am I getting this? And so many people who had jobs still being impacted by the fraud that was taking place. And while the state was pointing fingers at the federal government was saying, we actually gave you guys a new program to implement and you didn't implement it to safeguard against these things. And there really hasn't been too much to claw back some of those dollars. I mean, we've seen some headlines here and there of somebody charged with unemployment fraud, but all of that coming out in audits a couple of years ago. I mean, it's 2024 now. So clearly those may be in the rearview mirror, but interesting that the governor is bringing that up as something that is part of what he thinks the audit touched on. But the Illinois Auditor General's report really didn't go into that. We're just going to look at the summary digest here. The actual detailed audit is dozens of pages long. But you can see here just an overview of the different types of audit findings that there are. There were three new Category 1 audit findings, 3 repeated findings, 6 total for Category 2. There were 4 new findings, 13 repeated findings for a total of 17. So clearly, still a lot of findings that continue to be found here. Introduction, it says the digest covers our state's compliance examination of the Department of Employment Security for the 2 years that ended in 2023, a separate financial audit of the Unemployment Compensation Trust Fund as of and for the year ending June 30th, 2023 was previously released a couple of weeks ago. In total, the report contains 23 findings, of which were also repeated findings, 8 of which were repeated findings. Some of the overview also says the department did not comply with the requirements of the state's election code. We'll touch on that. And the department did not timely publish the semi-annual state's average weekly wage reports in covered industries under the Unemployment Insurance Act. So going on throughout here, we'll just review some of what, especially the election code stuff, because this is kind of fascinating here. All right, and this is just an overview and the recommendations. Non-compliance with the election code. The Department of Employment Security did not fully comply with the requirements of the state's election code. During testing the department's compliance with the code, we noted the following. The department has not established and operated a voter registration system capable of transmitting voters' registration information to the State Board of Elections portal. The department has not entered into an agreement with the State Board of Elections to transmit information required under the Electronic Registration Information Center membership agreement. The department's voter registration form posted on its website did not contain a space for the person to fill in his or her email address if he or she chooses to provide that information. The finding's been repeated since 2017 when the automatic voter registration program was kicked off in Illinois. And they recommended the department seek funding necessary to fulfill the requirements of the code. In addition, the Auditor General recommended the department enter into an agreement with the State Board of Elections to deliver the related required information under the Electronic Registration Information Center membership agreements, as well as provide a downloadable version of the voter registration form on its website, which contains a space for an email address. The department accepted the recommendations, but there was another finding here of untimely publishing of the state's average weekly rate. And they say that the department did not timely publish the semi-annual state's average weekly wage reports in covered industries under the Unemployment Act. During testing, they found this instance popping up in several areas. So other findings reported to being given attention by the department personnel, and they reviewed a variety of other things. So clearly these audits not necessarily going in that direction the governor had thought, but the governor did discuss, trying to say, hey, the pandemic was horrible, and the Illinois Department of Employment Security was ravaged by the incredible amounts of unemployed people needing some kind of benefits, and there was a lot of fraud there. But obviously, all of that spurred on because Governor Pritzker issued stay-at-home orders telling businesses not to open to the public, causing hundreds of thousands of people to seek unemployment benefits in the state of Illinois because of the governor's orders to essentially shut down the economy. So that is sparking massive amounts of unemployment during that time. So here we are with the unemployment picture still high in Illinois. Traditionally, we've always been lagging the rest of the country. Even from the Great Recession of 2007 and 2008, it took Illinois a decade to actually get back to pre-recession levels. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic strikes, and Illinois has taken longer to recover than the rest of the country from the governor-imposed economic restrictions during the pandemic. We'll watch these numbers as well, as Illinois, being one of the largest states in the country, we continue to see population decline, and things are still lagging. And what is the answer to get to a better economy? Is it fewer restrictions, fewer regulations, lower taxes? Illinois has among the highest taxes and among the highest corporate income taxes, and so on. And talk about possibly increasing income taxes or some kind of surcharge on millionaires, and that would include businesses, sole proprietorships. We'll follow all of that and more with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us as we wake you up with stuff you need to know each and every weekday morning. Here with America's Talking Network. Hit that notification bell.